Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're going to be tackling something that seems pretty simple on the surface, but I got to tell you, it's anything but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Humanitarian aid.
Oh, yeah.
We're not getting into like the logistics or the fundraising or any of that today. We are diving into something much deeper.
That complex relationship between organizations that are offering aid and the communities they're trying to help, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's always what it seems, right?
No, it's a fascinating area. And,
Yeah, it is.
you'd think just offering help, it's always met with open arms.
Right.
But it's just not how it works on the ground,
Right, exactly.
Much more nuanced.
And this is what we're talking about today. And it's highlighted actually really well by the work of Ludovic Jacques. I don't know if you're familiar with his work at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
But his article really grabbed my attention because he takes a close look at Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, as I'm sure many of our listeners will know.
And how much goes into basically whether a community accepts or rejects the help,
Yeah.
And it's not a simple yes or no. And it makes sense when you really think about it.
Exactly. And in fact, Jacques identifies like 3 levels of response, right, that MSF encounters.
Okay.
And the first is confidence. And I think that's what most of us picture, right? It's communities are eager for the aid. They see MSF as the cavalry arriving. They're bringing solutions.
Like in Haiti, for example, after that devastating hurricane, was it 2016?
Exactly, yeah. Like the need was overwhelming and MSF was really seen as that lifeline. But then you have defiance, which is something that Jacques encountered in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay, now this one throws me a bit. Why on earth would a community resist help? Especially in a crisis. It's baffling to me.
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But picture this. MSF shows up, they're offering jobs, but only certain people benefit, right? Maybe people with certain language skills.
Right.
Or certain skills. And suddenly you've got this resentment brewing among those who are not included. So it's not necessarily about rejecting the help itself, but those unintended consequences, that disruption of the existing power structures.
Yeah.
Like Jacques actually documented protests during recruitment drives in the DRC because of this exact issue.
Wow. So even with the best intentions, aid organizations can become entangled in these complex power dynamics.
Absolutely.
It's like walking a tightrope.
It is. And then you have what is probably the most unsettling response, which is a fiance.
Okay.
And, imagine being completely irrelevant. Your presence, it's neither welcomed nor feared.
It's just ignored.
It's just ignored, apathetic.
That's chilling.
Yeah.
Why would that even happen? Why would they just be indifferent?
Well, and Jacques argues this. It's happening in areas where the social structures have just crumbled, where governance is so weak,
Right.
Think about it. If you've lost faith in any form of authority or any organized effort to help, why would MSF be any different? They almost become invisible in a way. Not a threat, but not a solution here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
That even the most well-intentioned aid, if it's not received, is ineffective at best.
Yeah.
And could put workers at risk, at worst. Right.
Absolutely.
So if these responses are so varied and, it's not cut and dry, how does an organization like MSF even begin to navigate this?
Well, I think that's the million-dollar question. And I think that's what's so insightful about Jacques' work, right? It's not enough to just show up with resources. You have to understand this complex social landscape that you're entering. You have to build trust.
Which is no easy feat.
Yeah, no easy feat at all. But when you think about it, it's kind of like, it's like this cross-cultural dance, They're trying to learn the steps while also respecting that existing rhythm.
I like that. So how do they actually put this into practice? Like, what's step one, when you're dealing with such a fragile context and you need to build that trust?
Well, one of the key approaches that Jacques highlights is localization.
Okay.
So instead of arriving with a completely foreign team, they prioritize hiring and training people from the community itself.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And not just that, but they're, increasingly they're promoting local staff to international roles.
Wow. So it's not just having that local knowledge on the ground. It's shifting those power dynamics within the organization.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the personnel, right? MSF is really trying to get communities much more involved in how these projects are designed and implemented. They're actively soliciting input from the people they're there to help, adapting to those local needs, even if it means deviating from, the initial plan.
It's huge for a large organization to be able to say, we don't have all the answers.
It is.
Are there any examples of that, like that flexibility in action?
Yeah, Jacques talks about this project in Chad where the community desperately needed a well.
Yeah.
Now, this wasn't initially part of their medical intervention plan,
Right.
but they listened.
Yeah.
And they recognized that without access to clean water, their medical efforts would only have a limited impact.
Right.
So they dug the well.
Wow. That's incredible. You don't often think about that. You think about going in and, providing the medical care, but it's like...
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, exactly. It's all these different factors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, if they're on the ground, what else are they doing?
So another really critical piece of this is transparency.
Okay.
MSF is making a real effort to communicate openly with the communities.
Okay.
Explaining their role, they're addressing rumors, just being upfront about what they can and cannot do.
That's got to be especially crucial in places where there's pre-existing mistrust.
Absolutely.
Of, outside organizations coming in, right?
100%. And they tailor their communication strategies, obviously, right?
Right.
Depending on where they are.
Right.
But, Joxy, he observed them using some really interesting methods. Like in Niger, for example, they used local radio broadcasts to keep the community informed about what MSF was doing.
Yeah.
They also held, project inaugurations,
Oh, wow.
inviting community members, leaders to kind of come and see firsthand what they were doing and how they operate.
So it's about making it less... intimidating and more, accessible and understandable.
Demystifying the work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But beyond these larger efforts, I think, it's the small details.
Right.
Those everyday interactions where that trust is built, right?
Yeah.
And Joxy observed MSF going to great lengths to respect local norms and cultural practices.
I bet that's tricky, though. How do you balance, the organization's own principles and ways of working with what could be very different cultural customs?
It is. And it can be, as simple as dress code.
Right.
Right. In certain areas, this might mean male staff adopting more traditional attire or female staff wearing headscarves.
Okay.
As a sign of respect. Jox also noted how MSF set up prayer rooms in their facilities in Niger, in Pakistan, to accommodate these religious practices.
That's really interesting because it's such a small gesture, but I feel like it really speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
About how willing they are to meet people where they are.
It's about respect.
Yeah.
And not imposing, but integrating.
And not imposing your own. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it ties into something really crucial that Jox highlights about MSF's approach, which is this idea of health promotion.
Okay, so it's not just about providing that immediate medical care, but empowering communities to kind of take control of their health in the long term.
100%. It means going beyond just treating illnesses, right? It's about educating people about preventative health care, organizing sessions on hygiene, disease prevention, family planning, just really equipping these individuals with the knowledge and resources to make decisions about their well-being.
Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he eats for a lifetime. Right.
Exactly.
But in this case, it's healthcare. It's building that healthier future.
Absolutely.
For the entire community.
And what's, I think, quite brilliant about this is that these health promotion activities, they naturally provide a platform for MSF to build relationships, right? And explain their presence in a different way.
Yeah, because you're not just coming in with a clipboard.
Exactly.
You're coming in and saying, hey, we're trying to work with you.
Exactly.
Build something.
It's not transactional, it's transformational.
Yeah. And I like that you used the word embedding before, because it is about embedding yourself, not just physically, but I guess relationally as well, and structurally.
You've got to become a part of that community.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Building bridges of understanding, fostering that sense of partnership.
So we've gone from those three different reactions, confidence, defiance, and a fiancé, and now we're seeing how an organization like MSF is working to actually navigate those complexities, to build those relationships.
Absolutely. And I think it really highlights that effective humanitarian aid, it's so much more than just, dropping off resources.
Right.
It's about really understanding the tapestry of that community, their history, their power structures, their beliefs, recognizing their agency and working alongside them as partners, not just coming in with all the answers.
It's a very humbling thought that something that's often driven by such good intentions could still be, have unintended consequences if you don't do the work.
Right.
If you don't really listen and understand the context.
Yeah, you've got to.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Jox's insights are so valuable, right? Because he's really pushing for this idea that true acceptance, the kind that leads to lasting impact, hinges on this delicate balance.
Okay, so what do you mean by balance in this context?
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Okay.
where a community They recognize a need for assistance.
Right.
They're willing to welcome an organization like MSF in, but at the same time, they remain strong enough to not become overly reliant.
So they're not creating an unhealthy dependency.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
You know, think about those instances of a fiance that we talked about, right? Where MSF's presence was almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I think that often points to just a complete breakdown of the social structures where people have just lost faith in any form of organized support, whether it comes from within or outside.
Wow. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's not just about the organization being accepted.
Right.
It's about the community being strong enough to even have that kind of relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about building each other up.
Yeah.
Recognizing that aid, at its best, should be a bridge, right? To self-reliance, not a crutch.
Wow.
And that requires that constant dialogue, flexibility, a willingness to adapt and learn.
It's given me a whole new appreciation, I think, for just how complex this work really is.
Yeah, no, it's not easy.
And how much goes into it.
No.
It's not just, showing up with, like, a bag of rice.
Right.
It's all these other really important factors.
Absolutely.
It's a dance, isn't it?
It is a dance.
A constant learning and adjusting.
It is. It is.
Wow. Well, this has been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
And I love these deep dives because they always give me more to think about than, than pat answers, which I think is a good thing.
It is. It is.
Makes you think about things a little bit more deeply.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as always, a huge thank you to you for taking the time to, come on and share your insights with us and illuminating this really important topic.
It's my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you as always for joining us.
Yes. Thank you.
On this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.